Germany prepares to say goodbye to Angela Merkel. Hi there, everyone. It's Jeff, and this is Plain English, where JR and I help you upgrade your English with current events and trending topics. Speaking of JR, he has uploaded the full and complete lesson to plainenglish.com/422. Coming up today, Germany had an election in September, but it was only in late November that a new coalition government was formed. What was always known, however, was that Angela Merkel, the Chancellor for the last 16 years, would step aside. In today's lesson, we'll talk about her biography and domestic accomplishments. On Thursday, we'll talk about her legacy in Europe. We have an expression today, too, that is preside over, and we have a quote of the week. Let's get going. Angela Merkel, the soft-spoken but resilient Chancellor of Germany, is preparing to bow out of Germany's top job just as soon as a new government can be formed. Today is December 6th. If all goes according to plan, today is Merkel's last day as Chancellor. She has been Germany's leader for 4 terms, dating back to 2005, and she chose not to run in the national elections this fall. A new coalition government formed around the center-left Social Democratic Party, leaving Olaf Scholz to replace her as Chancellor. When Merkel finally officially steps aside, whether today or in the coming days, it will close a long and consequential chapter in Germany's and Europe's history. The title of that chapter, when it is written, may very well be consensus. For that is a word that defines her chancellorship. Her biography may have driven much of her approach to governing. She was born in Hamburg, then part of West Germany, but moved to Brandenburg State as an infant. That was then part of East Germany and a heavily controlled economy influenced by the Soviet Union. She studied for a PhD in quantum chemistry and worked as a research scientist until she entered politics in 1989. She was elected to the Bundestag in the first democratic elections after Germany's reunification in 1990, and she was a member of the Christian Democratic Union, the major center-right party in Germany. 15 years later, she would take the helm as Chancellor and preside over a grand coalition government. In parliamentary systems, when no party has a majority of the seats, a coalition government forms where multiple parties agree on a legislative agenda and on who holds key government posts. A grand coalition is a government formed by the 2 largest parties. That would be like the MBD and the PT in Brazil, or the Democrats and Republicans in America trying to set aside their differences and agree on a unified agenda. The advantage to such coalitions is that they command large majorities in a parliament, so they can easily get things done. The opposition also tends to be less fierce. The disadvantage is that the two largest parties often hold opposing viewpoints, so the coalition can be difficult to manage. Without a strong opposition, the coalition can get complacent. Though Merkel and her party were successful for 4 terms and 16 years, her party rarely won a convincing mandate for a strong center-right legislative agenda. As a result, Merkel presided over such grand coalitions for 3 of her 4 terms, meaning that her leadership was, by necessity, consensus-driven and slower moving. This was a good match for her skills. She was trained as an academic, not a partisan. Her personal history includes ties to both Eastern and Western states. She's soft-spoken and values the truth and logical arguments. Germany did well under Merkel. In her time as Chancellor, more women have joined the workforce. Unemployment has been low, public debt is low, and most Germans say they are satisfied with their economic circumstances. Merkel is leaving office with high approval ratings, even if her party's vote share has declined. Not everything went well, however. Merkel decided to wind down Germany's nuclear power industry after the Fukushima disaster in Japan. That has left Germany and Europe more reliant on Vladimir Putin's Russia for natural gas, and Germany is less able to reduce carbon emissions. Her budgets have been stingy even though borrowing costs have been low. Her decision to admit 1 million migrants in 2015, while compassionate, was poorly executed and eventually gave rise to a far-right populist party, the Alternative for Germany. Over time, her coalitions won smaller and smaller shares of the vote. So even if Merkel herself was popular, the governments she led gradually became less so. Still, Merkel's greatest domestic legacy will be her ability to build consensus and competently preside over a wealthy, stable, and tolerant country for 16 years. Think about all the upheaval in the world in the last 16 years. Germany was a rock while much of the world convulsed. That shouldn't be discounted. However, the name Angela Merkel will not be known to history for her domestic accomplishments. It was in Europe that she, and especially her consensus-driven leadership style, were most needed, and that's what we'll talk about on Thursday. "16 years is a long time for a single person or even a single party to oversee a government." Here in the U.S., the last time a single party held the White House for at least 16 consecutive years was from 1933 to 1953. Typically, after so long, the talented people in the party in charge get burned out, the ideas get stale, the energy level falls. On the one hand, I wonder if it wouldn't have been better for Merkel to have taken more political risks, taken a stand, and potentially even lost one of the elections somewhere in there, rather than being so politically cautious and accommodating. But on the other hand, she was also Europe's de facto leader during this time, and a leader's strength on the world stage is related to political strength at home. So it's possible she would not have had the same influence in Europe had she not had such strong majorities at home. We'll know more when her inevitable autobiography comes out in a few years. Today's expression is preside over. When you preside over something, you're leading it in a formal leadership role. A judge presides over a trial. That means the judge is in charge, in a leadership role. It doesn't mean that judges do all the work. They clearly don't. It doesn't mean that judges can do whatever they want either. Clearly, they cannot. But the judge is leading the proceedings, and so we say that a judge presides over a trial, or the judge presides over the courtroom. Imagine a board or committee. Who presides over the meeting? Usually, it's the chairman who presides over a board or committee meeting. The chairman is not always there, however. If the chairman is absent, another board member presides over the meeting. I have been the chairman of volunteer committees before. In that role, I have presided over meetings. I call the meeting to order. I work through the agenda in an orderly fashion. I make sure all the members can express their viewpoints, and I ensure we accomplish our goals. I don't always get my way, that's for sure. I can guarantee you that. But because I'm presiding over the meeting, I have a little bit of flexibility to guide and steer the direction of the meeting in a way that I think will be the most productive. Did you know that there is a Speaker of the House of Commons in Britain? The Speaker presides over the House of Commons. The Speaker is not the Prime Minister. If you don't live in the UK, I bet you don't know the current Speaker's name. It's Lindsay Doyle. I didn't know it until just now. The Speaker is a member of Parliament, but doesn't have a political role. Instead, the Speaker presides over debate in the House of Commons. In that role, the Speaker determines who can speak and in what order. The Speaker determines what amendments to bills are considered, and the Speaker can punish members who are out of order or break the rules. The Prime Minister is the leader of the government, but the Speaker presides over debate in the House of Commons. The Speaker must keep Britain's sometimes unruly Parliament in order. Angela Merkel presided over coalition governments in all 4 of her terms. She was the leader of those coalitions. They were coalitions comprised of multiple political parties with differing viewpoints and many different personalities. But Merkel was the one who was the leader of the coalition, and she had the top job. I bet if you asked her, she would tell you that she didn't get her way every time, just like a judge in a trial or the chairman of a meeting doesn't get to determine the outcome. But she did preside over the coalitions, steering them and exerting her influence. Today's quote of the week is from Oprah Winfrey. She says, "Where there is no struggle, there is no strength." Indeed, that is true. Just like you build your muscles and build your lungs by pushing them harder, so too is the case for the rest of your life. You build your strength by overcoming challenges. So remember that the next time you're struggling with something. Where there is no struggle, there is no strength, says Oprah Winfrey. And that's all for today's lesson. Remember, we'll continue our main topic on Thursday when we talk about Angela Merkel's legacy outside the borders of Germany in the European Union. We're heading into the holidays soon. Maybe it's not too early to start thinking about some time off work. We'll be here for you every Monday and Thursday with new lessons right through the holiday season. But if you find yourself with some extra time to catch up on English, then remember we have a full library of older lessons available to you at plainenglish.com. The easiest way to explore those is through the lesson libraries, which you can access from the menu at the top of the page. The menus are always there, but you have to be logged in. Well, the good news is that's free. If you're not yet a member, just go to plainenglish.com and you'll see what to do. Sign up for free and you'll unlock a library of over 400 lessons about current events and trending topics, and 400 lessons about English expressions too. Only a couple of accidental repeats in the history too. So check that out at plainenglish.com. And we'll be right back here on Thursday.